Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I have clearly got the video making bug because I'm back again with another video. Similar to my last one, it's another roundup, but this time of books that I want to read in 2022. Towards the end of last year, I kind of stopped giving myself TBR lists because I found that I would either stick to them too much and be reading books that I weren't really in the mood for and then ruining that experience, or I would avoid my TBR and then just not read. So I wasn't really doing myself any favours and became a mood reader towards the end of 2021 instead, which is something I will absolutely be continuing with into the new year. But the reason why I'm making this video and kind of giving myself a year-long TBR is because I have a lot of books on my bookshelf that have been sat there for a while and I've just not even thought about picking up because I've either bought new books or I've done something else instead. And I just sat there gathering dust. And the books on this list especially are ones that I really, really want to read, and I was so excited to read them when I bought them. And then kind of just left them on my shelf and didn't do anything with. And maybe it was because they weren't part of that dedicated TBR that month, so I thought, oh, I'll pick it up another time, and then I just never did. I don't know. But either way, I need to actually get through the books that I've bought instead of buying new ones. So I'm not on like an official book buying ban or anything. January does tend to be quite an expensive month for me anyway. So I do buy less books naturally in January. So I'm going to use that time to get into my actual bookshelves and read some of the books that are already on there. But as I said, this list is a completely 12-month long, year-long plan. I'm looking at the pile next to me now. I'm physically just here. I've got, I don't know, maybe like 12 books or something. There is no way I would read these in a month. Absolutely not. So the way I'm going to do this is, because I've got quite a few books, I'm not going to talk at length about all of them. Obviously, I've not read any of them. So what I'll do, I will just give a quick sum up. I'll probably read the blurbs of each one, and then I'll just give you my thoughts and feelings on the blurb and move on quite swiftly. I don't want to ramble and I don't want this video to be too long. So I'm going to be really, really strict with myself because I am very guilty of rambling and waffling on and just talking quite a lot of shit. So let's cut to it. So the first book in this list is one that I actually did start in 2021, but then I gave it a soft DNF, not because I wasn't enjoying it, but because at the time I just wasn't really fully concentrating on it. I was doing a hybrid of physical and audio reading, and I felt quite disjointed. And if you've read any of the books in this series, you will know that they require and deserve your full attention. And that book is Harrow the Ninth, which is the second book in the Locked Tomb series by Tamsin Muir. Yeah, I think that's how you said that last name. So this is a sequel to Gideon the Ninth, which, just as a really quick background, it follows lesbian necromancers in space. And that's all I'll give you because that's all I had and it got me really excited for it. So this book is told from the point of view of Harrow, who was one of the main characters in the first book and my personal favourite character from the first book. And we find Harrow dealing with the aftermath of the events of book one, as she is enlisted to help someone. I don't want to give too much away, but basically she's helping somebody out do this job whilst trying to figure out what is going on. Like I say, if you've ever read any of these books, I think maybe it is normal because I felt this way about Gideon and definitely about Harrow. When I first was reading it, I was like, what the hell is going on? And then you find yourself immediately kind of drawn in and understanding the world a little bit more the more you read, naturally. So yeah, I just wasn't really engaging with it as much as I needed to in order to enjoy it. But I'm still really, really hopeful for this one because what I was reading I was enjoying. I just knew I wasn't getting the most out of it. So I'm excited to pick this one back up. And I think the third book is coming out this year, so I really do need to read this so I can join in on the None of the Ninth hype as well. Next is a book that I have been promising to read, and I've probably said it on this channel. I know I've said it on Instagram countless times, and I've got a friend, Greg, who this book is pretty much his entire life and personality. No shade. and I promised him so many times that I'll read it, and I haven't yet. And that is Red, White and Royal Blue. Now, this has got so much hype. Obviously, One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston also got so much hype. And I'm really excited to read their books, but I just have not. And I really want Red, White and Royal Blue to be my first foray into Casey McQuiston's work. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. Essentially, it follows a guy called Alex, who is the son of the President of the United States. And it says here that he was cast as the
American equivalent of a young royal, handsome, charismatic genius. His image is pure millennial marketing gold for the White House. There's only one problem. Alex has a beef with an actual prince, Henry, across the pond. When the tabloids get a hold of photos involving Alex Henry's altercation, US and British relations take a turn for the worse.
As far as I know, it's a romance. It's obviously a queer romance. I think just based on that, we can assume it's enemies to lovers. And I'm really excited because I think it'll be a bit cheesy, but I don't mind a bit of cheese when it comes to queer romance. I think we deserve it. And I'm also very interested, being English, to see how the royal family is portrayed in this, because I've got opinions on the royal family, funnily enough. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how accurate / cringeworthy this will be. Next up, we've got a duology that I am yet to start. I bought the first book in early 2020, and I've actually bought the second book. I bought it in the Waterstones half-price sale over Christmas because I wanted the hardback edition to match book one. But I'm yet to read either of them, so I just really need to get around to doing it. The series is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, and essentially this is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, and it's set in 1926 Shanghai. The back just says the year is 1926 and Shanghai hums to the tune of Debauchery. I know the Romeo and Juliet story quite well, so I'm kind of expecting the plot to be similar, but naturally, with it being a retelling, I'm excited to see where the liberties are taken and where the creative influence is coming from Chloe Gong. So yeah, I've got this and These Violent Ends, which is book 2, sat on my bookshelf, so I'll definitely get around to these. I actually watched the Baz Luhrmann Romeo and Juliet the other day, and it got me really excited to read these, kind of sparked that, so I might pick this up this month, but we'll see. So the next 2 books are books that I don't know too much about, but I have heard really good things either on Instagram or Twitter or YouTube, and they just made me really interested to look into them. I got these for my birthday last year in August. They've been sat on my shelf ever since, and it's really time that I picked them up. So the first one is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse, and this basically says, a god will return when the earth and sky converge under the black sun.
In the holy city of Tova, the winter solstice is usually a time for celebration and renewal, but this year it coincides with a solar eclipse, a rare celestial event prescribed by the sun priest as an unbalancing of the world. Meanwhile, a ship launches from a distant city bound for Tova and set to arrive on the solstice. The captain of the ship, Jala, is a disgraced teak whose song can calm the waters around her as easily as it can warp a man's mind. Her ship carries one passenger, described as harmless. The passenger, Serapio, is a young man, blind, scarred, and cloaked in destiny. As Jala well knows, when a man is described as harmless, he usually ends up being a villain.
Which to me sounds actually amazing. I love anything like set on a ship. I don't know how much of the ship this is set on, but I like voyages, I like swashbuckling, I like anything to do with fantasy and magic, which is pretty much my entire brand. I also love a good prophecy. So yeah, this sounds really up my street and I can't wait to jump into it. Next up is Raybearer by Jordan Efeweko, and this sounds so interesting and so good. Essentially it follows Tarasai, who has always
longed for the warmth of her family. She was raised in isolation by her mysterious, cunning and often absent mother known only as the Lady. When Tarasai comes of age, the Lady sends her to the capital of the global empire of Artisar to be chosen as one of the Crown Prince's Council of 11. If she's picked, she'll be joined with other council members through the Ray, a bond deeper than blood. But the Lady has other ideas, including a magical wish that Tarasai is compelled to obey. Kill the Crown Prince once she gains his trust.
Again, this sounds like it's very reminiscent, and I don't know if it's YA or NA, I'm not sure, but it does read a bit like a YA story. I imagine there'll be a lot of like conflicting, morally grey characters in this, obsessed already with the Lady and why she wants to kill the Crown Prince. And I think the world already just sounds really interesting. I love anything set with like princes or royal families or noble families. I just think it adds a really interesting layer. I believe there's a second book, which obviously if I enjoy this, I'll pick that one up too. And I also just love the cover of this. It took me ages to figure out that there is a person's face within these lines. And ever since I've noticed that, I actually can't stop looking at the cover. So yeah, I'm super excited for it, and I really hope I love it because it sounds like I will. Quite similarly to Raybearer, we've got another one that sounds like it's set kind of prince, nobles, secret quests, assassination attempts. It's got that similar vibe, and I'm really excited for it. And that is A Song of Wraiths and Ruins by Roseanne A. Brown. Again, part of a series. I think the second one is already out, maybe the third one, I'm not quite sure. But this one basically follows Malik, who is
looking for a chance to escape his war-stricken home. Festival comes along, and it's the opportunity to start a new life in a desert city called Zoran. When they arrive at Zoran, him and Malik and his sister Nadia, as payment to enter the city, a vengeful spirit kidnaps Nadia. So in order to rescue her, Malik strikes up a fatal deal to kill the crown princess of Zoran in exchange for Nadia's freedom. On the flip side of that, we've got the crown princess, who's called Karina, and she's got deadly aspirations of her own. Her mother, the Sultana, has been assassinated, and her court threatens mutiny. Grief-stricken, Karina decides to resurrect her mother through ancient magic, but it requires the beating heart of a king, and she knows just how to obtain one, by offering her hand in marriage to the victor of the Solstacia competition. When Malik fights his way into the contest, he and Karina are set on a heart-pounding course to destroy each other, but as attraction flares between them and ancient evil stirs, will they be able to see their tasks to the death?
Again, enemies to lovers, dripping in fantasy. Sounds like it's going to have a lot of like conflicting viewpoints, morally grey characters, and just everything that I enjoy and love reading about a book. Reads again quite YA, which I'm really not mad about because I enjoy YA, but again, I don't know if it is, so don't take my word for it. So yeah, we'll see how I get on. If I enjoy it, I will obviously pick up the rest of the books in the series, but I've heard really good things so far, so I'm hoping that I really do enjoy it. Stepping away from fantasy for a hot minute, we've got another book that is absolutely YA, and this is How We Fall Apart by Katy. I got this in August of last year. I pre-ordered it, intending to read it sort of immediately, and then I just didn't. I have heard mixed things about this book. I've heard people really disliked it. I've heard people really loved it. So I am very interested to read just to see how I fare and what my opinions are. But essentially, it follows a character called Jamie Ruin, who is the
Queen Bee of Sinclair Prep until one day she's dead. Her former closest friends have no idea what happened to her, or do they? An anonymous poster calling themselves the Proctor points a finger. Jamie has 4 former friends. Each friend has a secret. One day Jamie goes missing. Which friend is guilty and deserves punishment?
It basically sounds very Gossip Girly, very Pretty Little Liars-esque, and I think it's just going to be a really quite fast-paced, gripping YA thriller. I do struggle sometimes with these kinds of books. I feel like they can be really hit and miss, but I still am excited to read it. Next up, we have Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I said in a previous video that I absolutely fell in love with Evelyn Hugo and that I think about it very regularly, which is true, I do. And this is a spin-off of Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. The storyline in this follows the Reaver siblings, and essentially the Reaver siblings are the children of Nick Reaver, who's a character in Evelyn Hugo. We don't get to know tons about him in that book. And this is set after the events of Evelyn Hugo and Mick and Evelyn's sort of interactions. Blurb reads,
it's the day of Nina Reaver's annual end of summer party, and anticipation is at fever pitch. Everyone who's anyone wants an invite to catch a glimpse of the famous Reaver siblings. Nina, the talented surfer and supermodel, brother Jay and Hood, one a champion surfer, the other a renowned photographer, and their adored baby sister Kit. Together, the siblings are a source of fascination in Malibu and the world over, especially as the children of the legendary singer Nick Reaver. By midnight, the party will be completely out of control. By morning, the Reaver mansion will have gone up in flames. But ahead of that first spark, in the early hours before dawn, the alcohol will flow, the music will play, and the loves and secrets that shape the family will all come bubbling to the surface.
I love books like this. I love messy families. It really just, it gives me life. Seeing rich, messy families have shit going on and their lives kind of crumbling gives me such a sadistic satisfaction. And I know that makes me sound like a really awful person, but rich people mess and rich people drama is just, it's next level. I love it. So I'm really excited for this. And I know that Taylor Jenkins Reid is such a good writer and that she can handle things with like really attentive care. So yeah, I am really, really excited to read this. And I might actually pick it up quite soon because I feel like January and February, the weather's going to be really shit, but this will be really warming and summery, and it might just help me get through the winter. But yeah, really excited to see how this one pans out. Okay, we've been away from fantasy for too long, so now we're back. And this one is one that has got a lot of hype and people love it. That is The Atlas 6 by Olive Blake. I believe that this was self-published at first and then became a bit of a phenomenon and is now being picked up by publishers, which, if that's true, amazing. Like, congrats to Olive Blake. The story really stands out to me and I'm really interested to see what it's about. Essentially, it follows the Alexandrian Society,
caretakers of lost knowledge from the great civilizations of antiquity, and they are the foremost secret society of magical academics in the world. Those who earn a place among the Alexandrians will secure a life of wealth, power, and prestige beyond their wildest dreams. Each decade, only the 6 most uniquely talented magicians are selected to be considered for initiation.
So this kind of reminds me a bit of a fight to the death, not actual death, maybe actual death, but as in there can only be a number of spaces, or there can only be one winner type situation. And that's all I really know about it. I'm just very, very interested in the Library of Alexandria in general. I find it an absolutely fascinating topic, and I'd just love to know how that history and knowledge of the Library of Alexandria has been woven into this book. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's definitely up my street, definitely got my kind of vibes, but we never know until we read it, and I will be reading that this year. In 2021, I jumped into the world of adult fantasy and became quite obsessed and really, really enjoyed the books that I read there in that genre. So naturally, I picked up more throughout the year and will be carrying on because it's very quickly becoming one of my absolute favourite genres. With that in mind, one of the books that I will absolutely be picking up this year is Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. I started Robin Hobb's books towards the end of 2021 with the Farseer trilogy. Hi, editing Andrew here. I have just tried to edit this next clip where I explain how the Ship of Magic ties in to the rest of Robin Hobb's Realm of the Elderlings books, and it's so bad. I clearly had no clue what I was talking about, and there are people a lot more qualified than me on BookTube to give you that information. So I'll just, if you're interested in any Robin Hobb books, especially the ones set in the Realm of the Elderlings, I will just link a couple of my favourite channels below that talk about Robin Hobb quite a lot. Basically, the Ship of Magic is the start of a trilogy that fits in with a wider universe that Robin Hobb has written called Realm of the Elderlings. I'm currently reading the very first trilogy within that, called the Farseer trilogy. The Ship of Magic is set in the same universe, but isn't directly related to the Farseer trilogy. And that is pretty much it. That's all you need to know. I said that I weren't going to ramble, and then I rambled a lot and made a mess of the entire explanation. So here I am to rectify my past mistakes. Make sense? Okay, cool. Back to your scheduled viewing. This one is basically the first book in the Live Ship Traders trilogy, and it's basically about traders and their ships, I believe, are magic. So basically the blurb says, wizard wood, the most precious commodity in the world, comes only from the Rain Wilds.
But only a live ship can negotiate the perilous waters of the Rain Wild River, and live ships are hard to come by. They quicken only when 3 members of the family from successive generations have died upon their deck. The live ship Vivacia is about to undergo her quickening. Althea Vestrit waits for the ship that she loves more than anything in the world to awaken, but her dream of taking her father's place at Vivacian's helm is not to be, for her family have other plans. And the dark charming pirate Kenneth also lusts after such a ship. He well knows the power of wizard wood, and has plans of his own.
So that sounds really good. Like I said earlier, I love anything to do with ships and setting sail and swashbuckling and pirates. I love that kind of vibe, and I really enjoy it when it's like in a fantasy setting, because I just find it really exciting against that backdrop. It is a proper chunky boy, so we'll see how we get on. I might need to do this audio because this, if I do read it, if I read this tomorrow, this will be the longest book that I've ever read. It's 880 pages. So yeah, I'll need to psych myself up to read this, but I'm really excited. We have very finally reached the end. And these next 3 books are all part of the same trilogy, so it should be short and sweet. As I kind of jumped into adult fantasy, one author that came up time and time again for me to read was Brandon Sanderson. Now, he has tons of books to sink the teeth into, but everyone always talks about the Cosmere, which I know is an overall universe, a bit like the Realm of the Elderlings, is an overall universe with different book series within that. So I had a look at those different book series and just wanted to see which ones jumped out at me to be the most interesting. And the one that was the Mistborn trilogy. So this is obviously made up of 3 books. So we've got The Final Empire, The Well of Ascension, and The Hero of Ages. Again, quite chunky boys. But I'm not 100% sure on the plot. I just know that the magic system works by people being able to ingest metal and have certain abilities given to them, but there's only certain people that can ingest any type of metal and have any type of ability, I believe. So I think the main character in this is the person that can ingest different types of metal. The kind of blurb on this box set just says, "For 1,000 years the ash fell, the mists ruled the night, the Lord Ruler owns the world, yet somehow hope survives." So I'm assuming it's quite your traditional overlord, evil, horrible society, and an underling's going to rise up and take over, which is like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, like any kind of fantasy-driven plot. But I love it. It's a trope that I really enjoy, and I'm really excited to see how I find Brandon Sanderson's writing. I have no idea about his writing style. I have no idea how I'm going to react to it. I know that some of his other books within the Cosmere have had to be split into two because they're so big, which is just absolutely terrifying. I only ever used to read like YA or short thrillers, and jumping into adult fantasy has meant that I've been reading 600, 700 page books. And whilst I'm getting more and more used to that and definitely enjoying it, the thought of it still absolutely terrifies me. So every time I pick up a really big chunky book, I just have to give myself a minute and make sure that I'm actually mentally prepared for what I'm about to put upon myself. If you got this far, thank you so much for watching. Comment below if you plan on reading any of these books this year, or if this video has made you interested in any of them. I hope you have a really good day, and I will hopefully see you soon. Bye!